In Matthew chapter 6, verse 33, Jesus said, "But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you." Sounds simple, right? But do we really understand what that means? And more importantly, are we truly living it out? Let's dive into what Jesus really meant when he said to seek first the kingdom of God and how it can completely transform the way we live. We've all heard this verse before. It's quoted in sermons, Bible studies, and even on social media posts. But have we really stopped to think about it? Seek first the kingdom of God. It's easy to say, but what does it mean in our day-to-day lives? What does it look like to seek first God's kingdom? We've got so much going on in our lives, our jobs, our families, our dreams, and our problems. We live in a world that constantly demands our attention and energy. So, how do we fit seeking God into that? What if I told you that seeking God's kingdom first might actually help bring everything else into balance? Let's break it down a bit. Jesus says to seek the kingdom of God first. Now, why is that important? It means prioritizing God above everything else. When we put God at the top of our list, everything else falls into place. But how often do we put other things, like work, relationships, or personal goals, before our relationship with God? How often do we tell ourselves that we'll get to God later when we've got everything else sorted out? But the problem is, things don't really sort themselves out on their own, do they? And if we continue to put God on the back burner, we risk missing out on the peace, guidance, and direction that He offers. Here's the thing. When we seek God's kingdom first, everything else starts to line up. And I'm not just talking about some spiritual, feel-good idea that sounds good in theory. I'm talking about a very real, practical change that can bring peace, purpose, and blessings into our lives. What if seeking God first was the key to everything else falling into place? What if by shifting our focus, we could experience more peace, less anxiety, and more purpose in our everyday routines? What if the secret to a fulfilled life is found in the simple act of seeking God's kingdom first? Stick with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to see Matthew 6:33 in a whole new light, and it will change the way you approach every single day. Let's go a bit deeper into Matthew 6 and the context behind this powerful verse. If you look at the verses leading up to Matthew 6:33, you'll see that Jesus talks a lot about the worries of life. He talks about how people are consumed by what they will eat, what they will drink, and what they will wear. Sound familiar? All of us deal with the day-to-day concerns of life, whether it's paying bills, making decisions, or keeping up with the demands of the world. But Jesus tells us not to worry about these things. In fact, He says, "Do not worry about your life," Matthew 6:25. It's easy to read that and think, but how can I not worry? These things are important. And of course, they are. But Jesus wants us to shift our focus. He's teaching us that worrying doesn't add anything to our lives. It doesn't change anything, and it certainly doesn't help us find peace. Now here's the turning point. Jesus gives us a solution. He says, "Seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added to you." Let's break that down further. Jesus isn't telling us to ignore our responsibilities or to not care about the things that matter in life. What He's saying is that when we prioritize the kingdom of God, when we make His will and His purpose the central focus of our lives, everything else falls into place. It's like putting together a puzzle. If you focus on the edge pieces first, everything else will naturally fill in. But if you try to put the puzzle together without looking at the big picture, you'll likely end up frustrated and missing pieces. Seeking God's kingdom first is like focusing on the edge pieces. It sets the foundation, and the rest of life will align with it. So, what does it really mean to seek God's kingdom first? In its simplest form, it means prioritizing God's will above all else. It means putting Him at the center of your life. But it's not just about saying, "I'll focus on God," and then continuing with everything else as usual. Seeking God's kingdom is a lifestyle choice, not a passive act. When you seek God's kingdom, it means living your life with a kingdom mindset. This means your decisions, actions, and relationships are all influenced by your understanding of God's will. You're constantly asking yourself, how can I reflect God's love in this situation? How can I serve others in a way that honors God? These are the questions that come from seeking God's kingdom. Here's a practical example. Imagine you're at work and you're faced with a difficult situation. Maybe you have to make a tough decision that could affect your team or your business. When you seek God's kingdom first, you'll approach that situation with a mindset of serving others and reflecting Christ's love. You'll prioritize integrity, honesty, and compassion over personal gain. And when you do that, you'll see that God's kingdom is not just a distant future promise, it's a reality that you can live out here and now. But there's another part of this verse that's just as important. Seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness. What does it mean to seek God's righteousness? Righteousness simply means being in right standing with God. It means aligning your life with His will and living in a way that honors Him. Now let's be clear, seeking righteousness isn't about being perfect. It's not about always getting everything right or living a sinless life. We all fall short. But seeking righteousness is about having a heart that desires to live for God. It's about striving to make choices that honor Him in every area of your life. Seeking righteousness is like walking down a path. It's not always easy, and there are obstacles along the way. But when we seek righteousness, we're saying, "God, I want to live according to your will. Help me to reflect your character in my life." And when we do this, we begin to see that life is not just about us. It's about reflecting God's goodness and grace to the world around us. Now that we understand what it means to seek the kingdom of God and His righteousness, let's talk about some practical steps for putting this into action in our daily lives. How can we truly seek God first? Start your day with God. The first moments of your day are crucial. Instead of reaching for your phone or jumping into your to-do list, take a moment to pray, read a Bible verse, or reflect on God's goodness. This sets the tone for the rest of your day and reminds you that God is the priority. Make decisions with God in mind. In every decision you make, whether big or small, ask yourself how it reflects God's will. Does it honor Him? Does it serve others? When you make decisions with God at the center, you're actively seeking His kingdom. Serve others. One of the best ways to seek God's kingdom is by serving others. Whether it's volunteering, helping a friend, or showing kindness to a stranger, serving others reflects God's love and demonstrates that His kingdom is about humility and selflessness. Trust God with the outcomes. Seeking God's kingdom doesn't mean everything will always go according to plan. There will be challenges. But when you seek God first, you trust that He will take care of the details. You know that He's got a plan for you, and you don't have to worry about trying to control everything. In the Bible, we are also reminded that seeking God's kingdom goes beyond our individual efforts. Colossians 3 verse 2 tells us, "Set your minds on things above, not on earthly things." This verse calls us to not get consumed with the day-to-day stresses of life, but to focus on the eternal. Setting our minds on things above means we're seeking God's will over the fleeting distractions of this world. Proverbs 3 verses 5 and 6 gives us a reminder of how we should trust in God's leadership. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your path straight. Seeking God's kingdom is about trusting that He knows best, even when we don't understand. When we seek Him first, He leads us through life, making our path straight. In Romans 12 verse 2, we are encouraged to be transformed. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will. When we seek God's kingdom first, our minds are renewed, and we begin to understand and desire God's will over the world's expectations. Jesus also reminds us in Matthew 6:24, "No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other." Here, Jesus makes it clear that our devotion must be to God alone. Seeking His kingdom first means we are wholeheartedly committed to Him without distractions from the world. In Psalm 37 verse 4, we are promised, "Take delight in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart." When we make seeking God our priority, our desires begin to align with His, and He gives us the fulfillment we truly need. So, here's the challenge. This week, make a conscious effort to seek God's kingdom first in your life. Prioritize Him in your thoughts, your actions, and your decisions. Watch what happens when you make God your number one priority. You'll experience more peace, purpose, and direction in your life. If this video resonated with you, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Share it with someone who needs encouragement, and let's continue growing together in faith. Also, I'd love to hear how you're putting Matthew 6:33 into action this week. Drop a comment below and let me know what steps you're taking to seek God's kingdom first. I'm here to pray with you and support you on this journey. Remember, when you seek God first, everything else will follow. Take that first step today and watch how your life transforms. See you in the next video.